Hi everyone, this is Wade, and this is IBD Awareness Week, Day 7. And this video is going to be speaking about my thoughts regarding my disease and in relation to how I feel in regards to how others perceive it. I was diagnosed December 31st, 2010, so nearly 9 years ago. And I'll tell you that it's been quite the journey. I would say that Crohn's disease brought emotions into my life that I probably wasn't prepared for and no one could ever get me ready for. So I just kind of had to deal with it as it comes almost. It was difficult in the beginning, I'll tell you that much. I went through a period of denial, oh no, I don't have it, and all the medications I was on, I was like, is this how the rest of my life's going to be? And then I started to worry about okay, am I going to have the proper support that I need to get myself through the years? And I can honestly say that my worries were not founded because I was able to have people that were there for me. Of course you have the people that, got up and left, but those are the people at the end of the day that I look at it you're not strong enough to be there for me, so you can exit stage left. And, that's kind of how that went. I know back before I got sick, I was hanging out with the wrong crowd and, it just, I think that, like I said, Crohn's disease made me realize how important life is. I think before I got sick, I didn't really care about my life. I was probably doing things I shouldn't have been done back then. And I think that after I got sick, I went from not caring about my life to fighting for my life, if that makes any sense. That's how I think that Crohn's disease started off for me. It's been a crazy journey for me because had been so thin for years, then I got sick and then I got thinner, so then I had to gain back the weight and then maintain it, if you will. As Crohn's disease, people don't understand this, it affects every part of your life. So, whether it comes to friends, relationships, the dating world for me personally scares me, not gonna lie. Just because, dating is complex to begin with, let alone bringing a incurable and chronic disease to the table. Not everyone can handle that, and I have myself experienced that where, you try to date someone and then, they back out because they don't know, that you're actually telling them the truth about a disease that they know nothing about, I would say two of the things that I don't want to hear as a IBD patient would have to be, one, I understand, which I know that doesn't seem bad to most people, but for me, I don't want to hear that because you don't experience my pain. And then the other thing I don't want to hear, definitely, is when someone says oh, I'm so sorry, that you're sick and all that. That's something else that we don't want to hear because we can't be sorry about something we never asked for, nor do we ever want. I never asked to have Crohn's disease, it just kind of fell into my lap, or in this case, fell into my stomach. And, I just kind of take every day as it comes. I would say that the worst part of the day for me has to be the morning. Most people don't really see that because, you're not obviously with me waking up. But I would say that nausea for me is the worst in the morning. It's funny because in the evening, that's when I would say that I'm the best. I think that's why I'm awake all hours of the evening and, I kind of enjoy myself in terms of not having to worry about, oh, I don't feel well, or, oh, I have stomach pains, or what have you, I think that one of my biggest accomplishments with Crohn's disease would have to be graduating college because back then I was my sickest, so I was on all the medications, I was dealing with all the side effects, and luckily for me, I had, a few professors that stuck with me and not necessarily understood what I was going through, but certainly gave me the leadway I needed in order for me to finish their class appropriately. Uh, so yeah, shout out to them. And I would say that I've had a few good friends stick by me. Of course, you have the friends that claim they're friends, but then when the going gets tough, they back right out. It's so easy to walk out of my life, and then that's it. It's another thing to stay. I always tell people, like, there's those people in this world that are there for like the smiles, the laughter, and the good times and the parties. And then there are those other people that are there for those times, as well as to help you weather the storm that you're like pretty much finding yourself in. Crohn's disease is very isolating. If you can imagine basically thinking about, you know, I'm the only one in my family with Crohn's disease. So it's very difficult for me to relate to, those around me because I have no friends or family with it, nor would I want them to have it. But it's just like you feel alone physically, if that makes sense. Like on the internet, I like have the support that I need because in my daily life, I don't. It's like the support. Yes, of course, you have support from your family and friends, but I'm talking about like people that like you can actually relate to and people that understand you. You know, it's like I can only talk to like my loved ones till I'm blue in the face until I'm like, okay, they aren't getting it, or I just kind of just give up mentally speaking about it because it's like it's so draining to talk about. Let alone open up about because people don't understand. It's like it's very personal. We don't have the most glamorous disease, we know. So I can't stand when people tell me like, "Oh, this is too much information." But like, you're there to support each other. At the end of the day, as if you're a real friend or if you claim that you love someone, that stuff shouldn't get in the way. So I think that Crohn's disease, like I've said before in prior posts I've posted online, is like I feel like Crohn's disease really made me a better person. I think that before I got sick, I used to always like be pessimistic, think the worst. But then when you get sick and you're chronically ill, you have to like basically teach yourself how to find the silver lining. So it's not easy to find the positive, but you have no other choice but to do that. So I mean, for the people that tell you like, oh, stay strong and do all that, it's easier said than done. You're entitled to have those weak moments. You're entitled to have those moments where you want to complain. And for anyone else that says otherwise, they're not the ones going through it. So if you want to complain, if you want to be negative sometimes, be that. You know what I mean? But don't let the negativity and don't let the depression or the isolation even basically consume you. I think that being a Crohn's disease patient certainly has allowed me to basically have a extended family, if you will. It's crazy that I spend a lot of my time on the internet talking to people, but I can honestly say that it helps me with my disease. Um, it's hard going through daily life, not having anyone to relate to, not having, someone there that says, I know what you're going through and actually mean it. You know what I mean? So I like I said, I've almost had Crohn's disease for like 9 years, and in the 9 years, I've learned so much about myself, if anything else. I used to underestimate how strong I was, during colonoscopy year, it's very difficult, like whenever I have to have one of those. I always make jokes about it because I'm like, okay, I've had more than like, your parents or whatever, so it was like some of the things I used to say to myself, you know, um, because that's obviously not easy as an adult. I remember when I got sick, I was 20 years old, and I remember like thinking back, like, oh, I had to like have my first drink on my 21st birthday. It's just like one of those things where like the average person wouldn't understand what that's like. Um, World IBD Awareness Week is so important to me because it gives not only myself but other patients the time to speak about the disease. We don't get the opportunity to speak about it all the time, because, we're always afraid of getting judged or, what people will say, how people are going to react. People always will say, okay, well, you're in remission. That means you're better. Or, you look okay, or you should eat more to gain more weight, things like that. It's like, we don't need those judgments. We don't need those assumptions. We just need you to be there for us. Sometimes like asking questions isn't as bad as it seems. If you don't ask, how are we going to know you care? You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, you just assume that we're fine. You know what I mean? What if we're having a bad day and we're like, okay, well, this person in front of me doesn't understand what I go through, so I'm just going to remain silent and do what I always call the I'm fine, response, which to me is like the most socially acceptable thing to say. When you're like, oh, someone asks you, oh, how are you? I always say, depending on who I'm answering that question to, I'm either going to be honest and be like, I feel like hell, or there's going to be like times where I'm like, I'm fine, because it's like, it's also with a trust factor that you don't want to automatically show your vulnerability, which for me is my disease. Like, I don't sit there and talk about it all the time. And I certainly, you know, basically try to get through the tough days, like, on my own. I kind of like internalize it, if you will, especially my daily life, which I know isn't always the best thing to do, but it's kind of like the way that I taught myself how to like get through. People say to me like, "How are you so positive? How do you have so much energy? Why do you always have a smile on your face?" They say because I learned early on in life that you can't get upset about things you can't control. So, when I'm like, nauseous, or I'm having diarrhea or gas, things that people don't speak about. Um, I just kind of, put a smile on my face. I try to laugh at myself regarding it. I know some people have their ways of dealing with it. That's one of the ways I deal with it. Sometimes I can get emotional depending on if I'm nauseous, but luckily for me, I have, medication that can take care of that for me. Um, Most people don't even know this, is like, I've gained so much weight in the last 2 years, but people still judge you based on your exterior. So it's like, okay, I gained all this weight, but most people would say he's still thin, he's still skinny, he still needs to gain more weight. It's always a battle. And most people like don't understand like how long and how rough of a road it was for me to gain the weight. Like, I'm proud of myself that I gained the weight, but you know, people don't understand, like, is with Crohn's disease, it's very hard to gain the weight. you know, it's like I had to basically, it's like a trial and error type of thing. I basically had to figure out what times a day I was going to eat and how often I was going to eat, and then determine, like, the amount I was going to eat, pretty much. So I don't, I think that's one of my victories for 2019 would have to be my weight gain. Uh, and also I would say my self confidence has increased. It's funny because like I used to be so scared with telling people about Crohn's disease. Like, I'd be like, oh, like for the first like maybe 3 or 4 years after graduation, I didn't tell a soul, like, in my daily life. I just didn't, because I just was like, okay, like, back in college, it kind of, like, scarred me from, like, experiences I've had, where, like, people don't give you the proper response that you should have. So, after I graduated, I was like, okay, I'm gonna, like, put myself in a mindset where I'm gonna, like, just internalize and just kind of, escape to the internet. But then it's like, okay, what justice am I doing for my community if I'm hiding who I really am? So then one day I just remember I just accidentally said it to a coworker, and it kind of just like spiraled from there. And then I was like, okay, well, if I'm able to tell one person, then that means that I can tell more people. Then I started to slowly come out of my shell. And honestly, I can tell you, like, standing or sitting in this case here, I can tell you that I feel a lot better about myself, because not only am I speaking out about a disease that is, unfortunately, people are very silent about, but I'm also helping to spread awareness about something that affects my life every single day. Um, IBD Awareness Week is very personal to me. It means a lot to me, and I thank anyone that's supported me throughout this week, or including in my lifetime. I hope everyone has a good day 7. I love all my fellow IBDers out there. You know who you are. And stay strong, remain positive, and continue the fight. Love you guys.